Hey, everybody. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. And I'm so glad the weather's picked up for a little bit warmer. Was getting really tired of all that cold weather. So were our animals, by the way. We are going to bring you great content today, part two of our Mastering the Processes webinar. We've got an incredible webinar schedule coming up for you as well. We're going to have printable flowcharts today. So when you see the QR code, make sure you've got your camera open. And this is going to give you a flowchart that you can use forever. And if you don't have time to do the QR today, or maybe you're listening to us from your cell phone or from a mobile device, we're going to email these out to you after as well. And it's also in the files here in GoToWebinar. We have our upcoming property tour. This is a big bus event. We actually sold out our small bus. We got a bigger one. This is going to be great camaraderie here to see the areas, see the crazy things happening here. And this is on January 26th. It's not too late to register. You can go to this QR code or go to slaughterinvesting.com as well. We are excited to start our property tours days. You're going to join us twice every Thursday for our hottest available off-market properties with OmniKey Realty. And so you can see single family homes, duplexes, and 4 to 8 unit properties. Registration information will be coming soon, or you can go to our Facebook and register there as well. If you're interested in this, just shoot us an email, info@slaughterinvesting.com, and we can get you that information. We're excited to start our monthly meetup here local to DFW, a Bite of Real Estate. Our first meetup is going to be January 31st from 11 to 12 at Spring Creek in McKinney. You'll just grab your food and come meet us in the meeting room, and we're going to talk. Some days we'll have education, guest speakers. It's going to be awesome. So if you haven't registered for this yet, please, we'd love to see you there. Michael and I will be there, of course. And then finally, our great April Spring Fling weekend is going to be upcoming pretty soon. We'll have our big bus tour on the 26th, the Spring Mixer family-friendly event at our home on the 27th, and in-person mastermind on the 28th. So keep your eye out for that information, and we hope to see you there. Make sure you join our mailing list if you haven't already. That way you stay up to date on all the great things we've got going on. Tons of stuff being added right now, lots of events, both online and in person. Don't want you to miss anything. And then, of course, we want you to go back and watch part one. That was the first part of this 3-part series. And then part 3 is going to be airing on February 7th at 12 p.m. Central, and hope to see you there as well. Before I begin, as always, everything that I'm going to tell you today is based on what I believe, and that's based on years of experience, not only being an owner-operator myself, but also owning and managing a real estate investment and management firm. There is no crystal ball in this business. Of course, everything that we see and we predict is based on past results, but that is no guarantee of the future. We are one tool in your toolbox, as I always say, and our goal is to connect you with those that can help you on your journey, not just us, but other people who are integral part of you developing your investment model and what is going to work best for you. But of course, all real estate is subject to potential loss and risk of capital invested. And so you want to make sure you do your due diligence, not just on who you're working with, who you're listening to, who's educating you, who's handling your taxes, every little bit of your model. And we are one tool in that toolbox to help you on that journey. We're going to start today talking about really just the model as a whole. And one of the things that I love about this model is it's so easy to do, and it's really easy to replicate, and it's not a lot of complicated steps that require so many different moving parts, and it's just something that really doesn't change with time. But the interesting thing about it is we can always adapt it to someone's unique situation. And so just because one person's doing it one way doesn't mean another person has to do it the same. And so with the new day comes new strength and new thoughts. So before we begin, let's start 2024 off right. A little bit about me. For those of you who are new, this is a massive webinar today. So just briefly, my husband and I are middle school sweethearts. We started our real estate company at 18 and 19. This is quite literally what we've always done. We own $40 million in real estate. We own multiple businesses, but of course our first business is OmniKey Realty, our real estate investment and property management firm, local here to North Texas and also covering Houston and a lot of Central Texas. We've been speaking all around the U.S. on stages since we were 18, spoken to crowds of 5,000 and crowds of 5. And so we do a little bit of everything, and our goal is to be able to connect with everyone. There's this misconception that a lot of what people like me do is working with the rich, and that's just not true. Most of our clients are regular, everyday people working regular, everyday jobs, just trying to do one of a few things, right? Work towards retirement, work towards supplementing income, or work towards supporting kids. Those are really the 3 things that we hear. And so our model works no matter where you are in life because it starts with one amount of money and it continues with that amount of money. Now, that doesn't mean you can't add more money to it, but the goal is that whatever you invest today, that needs to keep working for you to become more so that you can do more. One of the ways that we're able to do that and be able to make things happen the way that we do is because we are both born and raised here. Dallas is my home. Dallas is where I was born. I have lived here my entire life. I didn't leave at any point in time, nor did Michael. And we have been able to really develop our model around what our market allows, what our market is doing. And we are certainly blessed to be in the market that we are in. Personally, Michael and I are very involved in the community because this community has done so much for us. We have 4 adopted children. My husband is a reserve law enforcement in Collin County. He has served as mayor pro tem and on city council, and soon he's going to be running for higher office, which we'll be talking to you guys about later. But the bottom line is we're invested in our community. We love our community, and I think that shows through in everything that we do here. Big market news. If you haven't heard yet, Grayson County, my favorite area, got 2 incredible announcements this week that are going to hugely benefit this area, which is no surprise. We said that we were going to start seeing some of these big companies come in and these luxury resorts and luxury things to appeal to the higher job base that's coming in. So no surprise here. So first announcement was the Hard Rock Hotel Resort. It's going to be almost 200 rooms and 18,000 foot conference center. This is part of a huge development on Lake Texoma that's going to have an 18-hole golf course, a Chickasaw casino, enclosed water park, indoor and outdoor activities abound. And so really at the end of the day, this is about bringing things that people who have this expendable income can do, and also creating a tourism section for this area, which so badly has been waiting for that because it is just primed for it. So this is going to create about 9,000 jobs, over $1 billion investment, and they anticipate 7 million annual visitors to peak at Lake Texoma. And keeping in mind that this is also appealing to the city, to DFW's inner cities, because we are 1 hour away. Absolutely incredible. And then the even bigger news that I am so excited about is directly in Denison, and this is the new Margaritaville Resort. Very similar to the one that they did in Houston on the lake there. This one is actually being designed by the same person. This is over 250 rooms, over 300 jobs, restaurants, boat slips, cottages, casitas, and it's a $100 million investment for just the Margaritaville part. But this is part of a bigger announcement for Preston Harbor Development, which is a $6 billion development on Lake Texoma. It has a long stretch of waterfront on Lake Texoma, 3,100, actually it's I think 3,114 acres of developed land. They're going to be building 7,500 luxury homes and multifamily. They're expecting that this is alone going to bring more than 18,000 residents to Denison. So remember, the other project they already said was going to double the population of Denison. Now this one, again, we're looking at another 50%, another 100% growth. And so Denison, as I've been saying, is going to be the place where a lot of people are going to be living and working in Sherman. And so this is exactly what we are seeing. Little Mayberry is not going to be Little Mayberry anymore, but I know Denison's leadership, and they are obviously committed to keeping that small town vibe. And so I have no doubt that all of these developments that are on the outskirts of their city is not going to change that. There will be thousands of square feet of retail and restaurant space, and groundbreaking is actually going to be coming this year, which is incredible. That tells you how quickly they want to move to capitalize on what's coming. So looking at year-end numbers for Grayson County as a whole, median price is up 4.5%. Now keep in mind, this also includes all your small little country cities, not just Sherman and Denison. And so I am extremely pleased with the strength here, especially given the year that we've had with interest rates. And active listings are only up 8.7%. So anyone who tells you there's an overabundance of listings and that this housing shortage is not real, do not listen to them, because it was real before the 15 and 20,000 people coming in for 2 different developments, plus all the jobs and everything else. There is nothing impossible to they who would try. Alexander the Great, wonderful quotes coming from him. The last time we talked, we set goals. We learned why North Texas is such a profitable market to invest in. We learned the lingo and the basics of business so that you're going to have a step up on your competition. And so today we're going to continue on that trend, and we're going to be talking about the entire model. So we're going to start with the model looking at 1031 exchanges, which is where you have a property, you sell it, you tax defer that gain, and you go turn that one property into 2, or 2 into 3, or 2 into 4. That doubling process is going to happen every 2 to 6 years is what we anticipate. We've typically been seeing every 2 to 4. And then finally, your question is whether or not you're going to cost segregate and whether there's a benefit to that to you. And if there's not yet a benefit for you, how are you going to get to that point? So we're going to explain what a 1031 exchange is and its advantages in real estate. We're going to provide you flowcharts that are going to let you use for this process ever more. And then finally, how a 1031 exchange can help you achieve your 2024 goals. So a 1031 exchange, what is it? It's not a complicated math problem. It's not something that's difficult to do. It's really quite simple. It's a tax loophole. It's a swap of one real estate investment for another. And within that swap, you are able to defer capital gains taxes. And so this is actually named after Section 1031 of the tax code. Really boring if you need help getting to sleep. It's a great thing to read. I certainly recommend you do it at some point in your real estate investing career. Not a lot of black and white in there. It's really a lot of gray. And so there's a lot of numbers and things that are understood based on what's kind of common in the business. But if you're looking for black and white concrete numbers for 45 days, 180 days, 200%, all these different things, don't expect to find a lot of that in there. It's just like everything else with the IRS. But 1031 exchanges, why do you care? Why do you care about 1031 exchanging? Well, the power of a 1031 exchange basically means that you can have real estate that continues to build in value and grow equity into perpetuity. And as long as you're using 1031 exchanges, you are never going to pay tax on that. And the real power of that is what happens when you die and you pass that on to your heirs. So we're going to expect to save thousands on taxes. You're going to grow your portfolio through equity, not adding additional cash. You use that initial investment to keep going and build that portfolio. Now, that doesn't mean you can't keep adding to your investment to go bigger and better like people like me do. But the goal is if all you have is that one nest egg, we are going to take it as far as we possibly can. So let's break down a 1031 exchange. Assume you purchase a property for $250,000 and then 2 years later you sell it for $325,000. Normally you'd be taxed on that capital gain difference of $75,000. But a 1031 exchange makes your equity not subject to taxes today, meaning you can put all of those gains into a new property without being taxed because you've deferred it. And you've heard that saying, I'm sure, defer, defer, defer until you die. Well, that's exactly what a 1031 does. It keeps you from paying those taxes. And don't think that you can't eventually pull that equity out of properties, because a lot of people don't realize that if you defer that into a new property and it goes up in value, you can cash out and take the cash out proceeds, and that's not subject to tax. And so it's not that you can't ever touch that equity, it's that you're not going to touch it upon sale. A 1031 allows you to defer those gains into perpetuity. It changes that basis by resetting it when you die and you pass and leave the property to your heirs. And so they inherit it at what's called a stepped up basis. So if that property is worth $500,000 when you die, their basis when they inherit it is $500,000. Absolutely incredible tool to leave tax-free benefits to your heirs. And because there's no limit on the number of 1031 exchanges you can perform, you can defer again and again and again. You're going to maximize your portfolio growth, and that's because you're able to tap into your equity in full. And what do I mean by that? When we sell a property, there are sale expenses, right? And so there's going to be some things that you're going to pay, maybe 5%, 6%, 7%, depending on how you sell it. And at the end of the day, that's going to be it, because 100% of that net gain, 100% of your equity is going into a new property tax deferred. Now, if you were to sell the property and pay taxes on it, what would your tax rate be? Let's say you paid 20% on that. That's a huge loss. That stunts 1/5 of your growth. And finally, it's flexible. It allows you to have flexible growth strategies via 1031 exchange, or the benefit of the 2 to 6 year model is you can also do cash out refinances. So let's start with the rules to know for a 1031 exchange. It has to be like kind. They have to have similar uses. Now, that doesn't mean that single family to single family. You can go multifamily to single family, single to multi. But there are some rules that you have to stay within to make sure that you meet your reinvestment goal and your timelines. So you have 45 days from the closing of the sale of your property to identify your new property. 45 days, really, really hard and fast. But where is it hard and fast? Go read tax code. You're going to laugh when you see it. And then finally, you have the 6-month, 180-day rule for closing. So that is the time period in which you must close on the new property. Now, obviously, I'm not an attorney and I'm not a CPA, so I can't give you legal or tax advice. But what I can tell you is that all of this is about intent. It is about, was your intent to have a long-term investment? Was your intent to turn this into a 1031 exchange? Lots of things that you can talk about with your CPA if you find yourself in a bind on one of these. But if you follow what I'm telling you and you follow my steps and you work in a market and a team with a lot of inventory, you're not going to find yourself in that situation. The importance of an intermediary is that the money cannot touch your account. If that money comes from closing to you, you avoided your 1031 exchange. It is now a boot. That means you have taken that money. It is now profit and you are paying on that boot. So really important that you set up that 1031 exchange before closing. Don't wait until you're at the closing table and title is funded. You want to set it up a week or two before closing. Let your intermediary know. If you need a recommendation on intermediaries, we can certainly give you names. We have great people we recommend. You want to make sure you're using an intermediary that is actually going to be accountable to you, going to keep your money in an account that is accountable, because there's really no licensing or accreditation to become an intermediary. Anyone can become an intermediary as long as they are not related to the transaction or related to you. And that's pretty dangerous. You know, giving John Doe on the street your 1031 money can wind up in a really bad situation. So you want people that have a track record and have actual accounts at these banks that are accountable to you. So again, if you're looking for one, let us know. We can refer you to people that have done a great job for us. I also find that intermediaries based in certain states are easier to work with than others. Not to rag on you Californians, but your intermediaries are kind of a pain to work with sometimes, and they have a lot of different paperwork and things that make it much more complicated, and we are all about simplicity. And so if you are doing a 1031 in California, you do not have to hire a Californian intermediary. We can get you with someone who is easy and simple and not going to overcomplicate it for you. What they do is they hold those funds in escrow until the exchange is finished, and then they make sure that the sale and the purchase happen by moving those funds. And the great thing is if you have a good intermediary, they're going to be quick and they're going to work diligently so that when you go under contract, they can even send the earnest money for you. So very easy. Essentially what that means is that all of your expenses for that new purchase can come from the intermediary. The only thing that you should expect to really pay out of pocket for on a regular transaction is your inspection, because that's not going to come from your 1031. Now, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. One thing we hear from investors a lot is that 1031s feel overwhelming. Not while they're in them as much as before they're doing one or as they're getting started, because they've just never done anything like that before. And so if you're working with our team or if you're one of my mentorship clients, we're going to help handhold you through that process so that it doesn't feel stressful for you. But I promise it's not hard. So here comes to our first flow chart. Want to make sure you have your cameras up. If you will go ahead and scan this QR code, or if you want to wait, you can also download this when we send it to you after this or under the documents here in the program itself. So this flow chart is something you can keep with you and you can use into perpetuity so long as 1031 exchange rules don't change, which given that most of Congress makes their money in real estate, I don't expect that's going to happen either. So advancing your goals with 1031 exchanges, the things that I recommend that you look at are spreadsheets or whiteboarding. Some people are good with spreadsheets and they love tracking things on there. Some people are better with a sheet of paper or a whiteboard. Track your deadlines, track your numbers, track what your reinvestment goal is. Remember that you have to spend at least what you sold. And so if you have a property where your property sale price minus your closing costs is $200,000, you have to go spend $200,000. Now, there's also some other rules that fall in line with 1031 exchanges. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, go to our YouTube and watch our different videos on 1031 exchanges, or you can email us and we will send you a copy of that information. Now, how spreadsheets can help you is you can track each of your properties. You can see which properties are cash flowing and which have too little a cash on cash return. And you can also keep track of your portfolio to see the impact over time. So for me, I keep spreadsheets for everything. And it's not just for 1031 exchanges. And so one of my upcoming webinars is going to be how to do one of these spreadsheets. And I'm going to actually show you the exact spreadsheet I use to track my investments to help you learn to track yours. How to know when it's time to sell, how to know when it's time to 1031, how to know when it's time to raise rents, how to know when you need to cash out. All those different metrics that we use, we're going to teach you in an upcoming webinar. Now, things that I have on my spreadsheet: city, specs, square footage, lot size, the unit count, loan amount, the value, equity, borrower, lender, loan number, purchase date. As you can see, every little bit of information that I need. And you can see here the exact information from a snippet of one of my properties and how I manage it. And so at the end of the day, it is all about having your information clear and concise in front of you. And I promise you, as you do bigger and better things, it's going to become more and more important. Now, how whiteboarding can help. For those of you who are not tech savvy or who don't love spreadsheets, sometimes having it visual in front of you and you actually writing it yourself is going to help you remember that information and connect with that information. All of us learn differently. Some people are written learners and some people are be able to really learn anyway. And so it just depends on what works best for you. One of my kids is a written learner, and so she writes everything down, and that's how she helps remember it. And then my son, I couldn't get him to write something down for the life of him. Everything is kept in folders on his phone. So everyone's a little bit different in how we learn, and you just have to learn what works for you and what doesn't feel overwhelming for you. The nice thing about whiteboards is if you're doing a group event or you're meeting with friends and you're all working together, this is a great way that you guys can collaborate together. Even working with a spouse, sometimes a spreadsheet can be really impersonal. I'm like, hey, Michael, come look at this. Look, I finished this. I want you to look at it on my screen. And then he has to take my laptop, and it's a whole different thing as opposed to collaborating together. So I use Apple Screen Share. That's my big thing when I'm working on a project or one of my spreadsheets, and Michael and I are looking at that together, or even me with my team on something. I screen share to one of our TVs. That way we can all collaborate together like a whiteboard, but on a digital interface. And so lots of great ways that you can figure out what's going to work for you. It's just about figuring out what works for you. And remember, the sky is not the limit, your mind is. This is something that is so important that you remember. Even if you think these big, big goals, these big, big dreams are not achievable for you, they are. They are. It's just how you're going to get there. It's coming up with the plan, coming up with the method, coming up with the path. And that is exactly what we do every day. That's why we bring you all this. So let's talk about that 2 to 6 year doubling process. What is it? How do we start it? How do we use that flow chart that's going to last forever? And how is it going to help you achieve your goals? So let's go back to what you've seen many, many ways from me over the years. We're going to acquire a property with max leveraging. Now, max leveraging, making sure it cash flows, of course. This becomes more important when interest rates are high. So like when interest rates were at their height, most of our people were putting 30, 35% down. Now we're back to 25 to 30% for most people. We'll be back down to 20% when rates come down a little bit more later this year. Sell in 1031 exchange or cash out during years 2 to 6. And then buy new properties, 2 for 1, 3 for 1, 1.5 for 1. All depends on the numbers of your property. And that is part of what we help you assess. Now, doubling process. Our goal is that you only have to invest once, and then that equity keeps working for you to push you forward. You don't have to just invest once, but the model is designed that you have X amount of money, and that X amount has to take you as far as you can. So what can your future look like if you start now? You can start with 1, move to 2, move to 4, move to 8, move to 16, and this is the power of what we do. Now, of course, when we have our heightened growth areas, it's possible to do it faster. You have areas that don't do as well, it's possible to do it slower. But this is a realistic achievement here. This is looking in 10 to 15 years that you have a portfolio where you don't have to work. That's what we're talking about here. Because remember, each of these properties is not just cash flowing. You look historically over the last 81 years, real estate has been up or not negative for what? Only 5 of them have been down over the last 81 years and 2 were flush. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, there is no safer investment and no better long-term investment than real estate. An example. So the year's 2021. You found me in 2021. You went to OmniKey, my main company, and you bought a home in Denison for $167,000. You put 20% down, so you had $33,400 equity, assuming that you bought it at full value and it didn't appraise higher. One of my clients this month had 2 of his properties appraised more than $20,000 more than what he paid on the new construction we got him. So equity is a different piece that we don't look at on those upfront purchases, but it is a very real possibility on most of these. You put 20% down, you've got that $33,400. You've taken out a loan of 80% for $133,600. We're now in 2024. The value of that same home is now $255,000. Your equity on that home is now $121,400. And these are real numbers from Rocket Homes. That $121,400, you sell the property, you do a 1031 exchange, you now have deferred taxes on the $121,400. Now, not all of that is gain. Some of that is your original down payment, but you've got a massive gain of around $90,000, $88,000. So you're going to use that gain to pay down payments on 2 to 3 more houses. So let's say you go buy $200,000 homes and you're putting 20% down. That's $40,000 per home. Do the rough math. That's 3 houses. You've turned 1 home into 3 homes in 3 years. That is the power of real estate and the power of making sure you're buying in a high growth area. Now, that's not even considering the money that you've made off the tax benefits for depreciation or cash flow and principal pay down on your mortgage that entire time. Because remember, on a 20% down 30-year amortized mortgage, just your principal pay down is another 5% cash on cash return every single year. So the question becomes, do you cash out or do you 1031 exchange? Because at the end of the day, the house that you've bought that you now own in 2024 is very similar to the same houses that we are selling today. So the questions you need to ask yourself, number one, does the property cash flow better than or equal to a new purchase with the cash out? Now, when we're looking at property taxes, this makes a big difference because we get huge benefits on new construction in the beginning. And then the second question is this a property that you would buy again right now as a rental property? If your answer is yes to both of these, then cashing out makes the most sense. If your answer is no, then a 1031 exchange makes the most sense. But keep in mind, the cost to refinance is less than a sale. So even when you cash out, it can help you preserve equity. And when you cash out, you're taking that money tax-free, meaning you don't have to use it to reinvest. Of course, we recommend you do. That's what the model dictates. But if you just wanted the cash out, you certainly could do that as well. Now, when to 1031? If the market is appreciating, if rents are less than 0.65% of value, if your refinance rates are over 6%, or it's been more than 4 years since build or remodel because of aging systems. These are often the metrics that we use to determine when a 1031 is going to make more sense. But keep in mind, if you're working with my team, they are going to help you make these decisions. So the usual answer is a 1031 exchange. Right now, we're doing more cash outs than before, but generally, most of the time, your value gets too high and you're going to do a 1031 exchange. Now, the caveat to that is if you go back 6-7 years, we were buying in areas like Collin County, Anna, Melissa, Princeton, and those values have gone so crazy and rents have not kept up. The rents are actually in line with Denison, which is a little bit further north, and the prices are lower. So in that case, obviously the 1031 exchange makes sense. And this is why it's so important that you are monitoring your metrics and using that monitoring system and checking it all the time so that you can make these decisions and working with a team like us or like others like us that are going to help guide you on that journey. Now, the advantages to the doubling process are it's beginner friendly. You're not going to lose value over long periods of time. There's always something new to be working towards. You're not going to get complacent because it's fast moving. Even if it's not always fast moving, it generally is fast moving. And it's very results based. So you know you're not just spinning your wheels. You are 100% able to see the results of your labor, the results of your investment, and track it in real time because value is really not perceived. It's very ironclad. It's very black and white. Rent's very black and white. Very easy to see what your money is actually doing for you. And that is one of the reasons we strongly encourage and recommend you use cash on cash returns. If you're on my Facebook and in my wealth and rentals group, you saw me post about that earlier this week. Now, I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. Here's your doubling process flowchart. I'm going to give you a minute to scan that QR. Okay. So how have I used the doubling process? Well, I use it a lot. Those of you who have been following me long enough, you know that. So let me show you one I just did. This is a house I bought in Greenville. It's a 4-bedroom, a 2-bathroom. I bought it in the middle of 2021. Actually, I take that back. I bought it at the end of 2020 and I renovated it mid 2021. This was in the middle of COVID and I had a lot of projects going, so I sat on it a few months. Total cost was $191,000 and I financed all but $35,000 because of course I have lending programs that allow you to roll in rehabs. So I had $35,000-ish in this house. 2022 value went crazy. I refinanced and cashed out $41,000. So I now had negative $6,000 in this house. That means that I had this property completely free. My return was infinite. And the refinance cost nothing as it came out of that $6,000 equity. So what did I do just a few months ago? I sold the property and I got $70,000 to roll into a 1031 exchange. So all in all total, I made $111,000 in less than 2 years on this property. Pretty incredible, but this is the power of a 1031 exchange. Now, what did I do with that $70,000? Some of you may be wondering. I went and bought a fourplex and it covered all but a little bit of my down payment. So I took one single family home and I turned it into a 4-unit property that even with the crazy interest rates at the time where I bought it, still cash flows $1,500 a month. That, my friends, is the power of the 2 to 6 year model. So we're going to advance your goals. How are you going to do that? You're going to use a vision board, or you're going to use a spreadsheet, or you're going to use phone apps. Now, this is one we haven't talked about before, but there's some great applications out there to help you monitor what you are doing. And one of the things I love is iCloud. And it seems really simple, but having the information in front of you wherever you are. I was talking with one of my mentorship clients a couple days ago, and she was making that move over to iCloud. We were talking about this, and she's like, well, I was at work, and it would be great just to have that information at my fingertips. And that is the power of something like the iCloud, because I have it on my phone, I got it on my iPad, I got it on my computer. Really, I can't escape it. But that's what keeps us moving forward, and that's what keeps us. And the other thing you have to remember is that's how you know you're excited about something and how you're seeing it work for you, is if you want to have it, to have the ability to have it with you at all times. So I want you to picture life in 2 to 6 years. If you create this reality for yourself, what that's going to do for you, visualize what that could do for you. And you can pin up pictures. It's a great way to stay motivated. Pictures of your properties, pictures of properties you want to buy to move into, pictures of remodels you want to do. One of my mentorship clients is currently redoing his basement, creating more living space for them, an office. All of us have different reasons and different things that we're passionate about that we want to do. For me, we just yesterday hired a guy to come build a bigger wood barn for our animals because it's been cold and wet and they just don't seem comfortable with the current shelters that we have. We wanted something bigger. All of us have different things that motivate us. You have to decide what motivates you, and that's what's going to propel you forward, and that's what's going to make you successful. You have to have goals. You have to have dreams. So phone apps can help you keep track of times and dates, notifications and calendar, and your different settings in your phone. I don't really know a whole lot about Android anymore. I've been on Apple. Our whole office has been Apple for a decade now, but I know that they have it too. I use my calendar. I use notifications. I use my tasks. All of that stuff in your phone is hugely helpful, and it's going to keep you accountable. Sometimes I use email and I flag the things I need to follow up on. Lots of different ways you can use it. But a rigid calendar can really make taking the small steps easier and not forgetting a step. I even use a check sheet for everything I do, and I make each little task and each little thing for every step. And so when I'm doing a 1031 exchange, I set my reminders 45 days, 10 days before, 180 days, 10 days before, 20 days before. What date is my option period up? What date is my financing contingency up? I use my calendars for everything that I'm doing, and I encourage you to do the same. Staying organized is one of the ways that you're going to help the process not feel overwhelming. When you've got a dream, you got to grab it and never let go. Really, really important, because again, those dreams, the things that we talked about this last webinar, the things that you are achieving are what is going to propel you forward, and that's what's going to turn it into a reality for you. So let's talk about cost segregation. What is a cost segregation? What are its advantages? How are you going to use that flow chart to last forever? And how is cost segregation going to help you achieve your goals? Really important, because cost segregation is the end goal for every real estate investor and becoming a real estate professional. And generally what we're talking about here is allowing your deductions, allowing your depreciation to apply to your active income. So I'm going to explain what that means. So when we have passive income, that's like your real estate income. You're only going to have so much to be able to offset with your deductions on property. So let's say that you buy a property and the basis on that property that is depreciable for you is $200,000. And that is a single family home, right? So your depreciation life is 27 and a half years. That means that you are depreciating approximately $7,200 a year. Well, if you only have one property and that one property made you $4,000, you have more depreciation than you can claim against your passive income. And again, I'm not a CPA, y'all. I'm just breaking this down as simple as I can. But let's say that you have a W-2 job where you're making $70,000 a year. If you are a real estate professional who qualifies for cost segregation and real estate professional benefits, you can now take that depreciation against your active income. So a good way to think of that is your actual job, your W-2 income. That is the power of becoming a real estate professional in the eyes of the IRS. And cost segregation is one of the tools that real estate professionals use above and beyond just straight line 27 and a half year depreciation. Now, keep in mind, multifamily has a different depreciation schedule. Commercial is different. So we're strictly talking single family here, single family meaning 1 to 4. Benefits of cost segregation: it lets you maximize your profits. You qualify again by being a real estate professional. And of course, I recommend you talk to your CPA about how you qualify now or how you can get to qualify in the future. And then what the step-by-step process is of conducting the study. Now, I want to tell you, I have a wonderful CPA I work with. He's fantastic. Remember, anyone I refer to you, I can't make kickbacks or referral fees. Actually, I have to disclose that to you. I only refer them because they do a great job. My CPA is affordable. He's kind. He's honest. He is one of the most integrity-filled people I know, and man, is he a powerhouse in real estate. Thanks to me. I'll take credit for that. My taxes are probably the most complicated most people would ever see, but he's really, really good. So if you want to consult with somebody who truly understands this model, if this is something that you want to live, you want to breathe, you want to do, you can always reach out and I can give you his information. And he's also here local to North Texas. So the benefits of real estate outside cash flow are numerous. We've talked about this before in previous webinars. It reduces your tax liability, and that's through understanding depreciation. And then cost segregation allows you to accelerate that depreciation even faster so that you get more depreciation each year. But we also get the mortgage interest, that's a deduction, property taxes, deduction, real estate professional benefits like we're talking about, expenses that you can write off, and the ability to defer gains with 1031 exchanges. And of course, the biggest cash flow of all is your monthly cash flow and your principal pay down on your mortgage. Again, remembering that on a 20% down 30-year AM, that is a 5% cash on cash return a year alone. So straight line depreciation, again, is 27 and a half years on a single family home. So there's that $200,000 at $7,272.72 1 year depreciation. Now, when we look at the alternative method, that's cost segregation, we are accelerating that. So 20 to 40% of the components inside a property are categories that can be written off faster. And so that's going to be 5, 7, and 15-year depreciation items. So by doing cost segregation, we are unlocking this hidden value. We're turbocharging those deductions that you're going to see on your taxes and creating a cash flow frenzy. But very important that you have a tax status that will allow you to use them. So again, to recap, traditional depreciation schedules it as a single long-lasting asset, depreciating at an even amount every year. Cost segregation breaks it down into shorter-lived components like flooring, fixtures, and appliances that are not assumed to last 27 and a half years that you can write off faster. And that's what a cost segregation study does. So by reclassifying those parts of a property, you're depreciating them quicker, and that allows you to have larger deductions up front, essentially wiping away income. So lower taxable income, of course, means more money in your pocket, lower tax bracket, and you can use those savings for whatever you want. Property upgrades, investing in more property, or spending money, pocketing it in savings. So many different things you can do with it. The sky is the limit. And all of your investment types qualify for this: single family homes, multifamily homes, commercial properties. So what does it cost? The tool that I recommend with the company I recommend is less than $500 for the cost segregation study. And what it can save you, tens of thousands. On my properties, I was seeing about a 30% average year one depreciation on the cost segregation. So about 30% of the value of the basis of the property was what was able to be depreciated at a faster schedule. And now it's tiering down. So each year it's going to be a lower percentage of that approximate 30%. But I want you to think $200,000, 30%, that's $60,000 year one. Incredible, incredible what this can do for your tax bills. So what is your roadmap? Number one, you contact the qualified professional. If you're interested, reach out. We can connect you. You conduct your study. You're going to provide detailed property information and records on condition, build, all sorts of things. Very simple. Don't get overwhelmed. It's a lot of items, but easy to put together in an hour or so. And then you're going to review and implement. You're going to analyze that report, and you're going to give that to your CPA to put on your taxes to use if you were able to. But a reminder again, it's a powerful tool, but it's not a guaranteed windfall. Make sure you consult with your tax advisor or reach out to us so we can refer you to one to assess its suitability for your specific situation. Again, the importance of becoming a real estate professional is really where all of us want our goals to be when we are investing in real estate. When we look at straight line depreciation, you'll see this is an example chart, year one, year two, year three. Whereas you look at what cost segregation does is it heightens that additional $16,000 year one. A non-professional, it's going to take 3 years to gain the same benefits, and that's assuming a rental income of about $30,000. So huge, huge benefits. How do you qualify? Well, basically, like I said, it's going to create where your active income now is subject to depreciation and losses. So you have to spend more than 50% of working hours on rentals and more than 750 hours per year working in rentals. That's about 15 hours a week. But it can include management, construction, purchasing, development, education, all these things we're talking about. So again, talk to your CPA, come up with a plan to qualify for this if you are not already. And this is a list of items and components that actually are included in the cost segregation accelerated studies. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. All of this education is key to being able to make all of this work, to learning how to make this work, how to go bigger, how to go better. One of the ways that we do that is by coming to you all the time with what we're doing, talking about our model. And this year's focus is going to be breaking this down into small parts. So you know the big overall picture. Well, now we're going to break it down into all the small parts, every little thing. So huge, huge schedule coming up. I'm going to give you just a second to finish this QR. So when we're doing cost segregation, it's important that you lean on your team. And it's important that you continue doing one of your tracking methods. Another opportunity is journaling. I have a lot of clients who journal. They journal their goals, they journal their processes, things that they want to go back and look at to see how far they've come, things they want to share with their kids when they get older. It's so much more. It's so much more when we look at cost segregating and the benefits of what you can do in real estate. But it all comes down to what your goal is. So one of the things, mistakes that I see people make is that they say, well, I'm only going to hold this house a year, but then they go cost segregate. You can't do that because there's recapture. And so part of learning and building your overall model is knowing what you're doing in the future. And so by looking at what you're doing today and looking ahead with all the things we teach you is how you make decisions on things like cost segregation and whether it makes sense for you. So make sure you keep educating yourself, make sure that you continue to come up with your model, work with professionals who can help you if you do that. And remember, even if you don't qualify today, everything that we're teaching you, everything that we're showing you how to go do, and if you're working with my team that they're taking you to go do, is to get you there. That is the goal. Success is not final and failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. So again, here are these 3 flowcharts. Hopefully you've got them all by now, but we're going to be sending them out to you after today. And if you haven't scheduled a consult call with me, I promise you it's worth the $125. You get a half hour with me. You're going to send me a bunch of information in advance of it that I'm reviewing on top of the half hour, help you come up with your goals, help you figure out what your path needs to be. And of course, if you're interested in our Wealth and Rentals Elite, that's our mentorship program where you have 24/7 access to me, a huge group of people that you can really count on. I think there's about 14 people in the group, awesome people all doing the same journey. We do in-person events, lots of one-on-one education, and monthly meetups with all of us online. It's a great, great way if you really want to turbocharge and you want to move quick and you're ready to do this. It's a great way to get started. Now, we have a great new Facebook group. This is a free group for education. People are asking questions. We're answering them all the time, bringing you breaking news updates. We don't want to inundate you with too many flyers, and so this is a great way to stay in front of you all the time and keep you posted on everything going on and answering expert questions, providing little breakdowns of different things like I mentioned. I talked about cash on cash returns this week. I talked about rental vacancies, lots of information coming at you all the time. So would love to have you in the group. Again, this is free and anyone can join. That's the QR code there, or if you want us to send you a link, just shoot us an email. And of course, you can always email us at info@slaughterinvesting.com. Now, part 3, what to expect. We're going to talk about the predictions for the market this year. We're going to talk about the evolving mortgage rate impact of what's happening and what we expect, and then expanding your goals to 2025 and beyond. So that'll be February 7th at 12 p.m. online, and you can register now. And can't wait to see everybody there. Of course, please follow us on social media to stay up to date with upcoming events. And finally, make sure that you download our podcast channel and subscribe so that you can listen to our podcast there as well. Great way on your way to work to learn and figure out how to make this work. Finally, if you're not on our texting list, you can text join, the number's here, and this is another way to keep up to date. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. I love that quote. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.